So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Tenpai, and I think, honestly, Tenpai is a garbage deck, well, in Master Duel specifically, because we're playing best of one, and if we're playing best of one, there's so many things that Tenpai has not going for it. So, we'll start with the extra deck of Tenpai not being very good. So, if we look at the extra deck, a lot of the space is allotted to synchros here and some random links here. So I believe the Striker Dragon here is specifically just to make SP, and then we have Promethean Princess, and all of these guys are fire, so if for some reason we need to, we can climb into, I believe, Promethean Princess, and then go into Raging Phoenix to do the Atlantis OTK. So you have that option, and you have like some removal options with Black Rose Dragon and whatnot. But for going first options, it is literally Seals Pass. Nothing in your extra deck here does anything if you are going first. So yeah, not super great in that department. But if we also look at the extra deck a little bit more closely, if we specifically look at all of the link monsters, we have here Striker Dragon, 1 level 4 or lower dragon monster, Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, 2 dragon monsters, and then we have SP Lil Knight, 2 effect monsters, Promethean Princess, 2+ effect monsters, World Sea Dragon Z Atlantis, 1+ effect monsters, and then finally we have something great, Raging Phoenix, 2+ fire effect monsters. So if you guys haven't noticed the big issue here, all of these monsters, they have very particular link conditions, pretty much, right? So for Link 2s, the only somewhat generic one you have to make is SP Lil Knight, and that is it. So, Ibli, for example, right now is no longer legal, but if I did give Ibli over to Tenpai, it would be impossible for you to get rid of that Ibli unless you specifically open a Forbidden Droplet. So this can be solved at least if we play like copies of Dark Hole. So this outs Ibli, I guess, and can maybe do some damage to your opponent's board, assuming it can resolve. If we're playing against specifically Cyber's U-Link, that this isn't going to happen, but Ibli is banned, so no need to overthink this. But what isn't banned is specifically the strategy I showcased a little while ago, where we just simply flood our opponent's field with tokens. So the difference between Ibli and tokens is pretty simple, in that it is impossible to send for cost tokens for Forbidden Droplet, because they can't really be sent to the graveyard. Tokens being sent to the graveyard for cost, yeah, that's not a thing. So if I give my opponent here 5 tokens, and they even activate like Maxi, they can draw whatever they want. Doesn't matter. Nothing in their deck does anything if they have 5 tokens. So just for example, if my opponent activates Maxi and then I go ahead and summon, let's see, what's it called? So, well, whatever, don't remember. But if we activate essentially Black Guardian here, giving my opponent a couple of tokens, you know, just about 4 or 5, and then let's say we'll set a guy. So ideally, we would be giving our opponent 5, because with specifically this, right? Actually, does this matter? No, this is fine. We can give them 4 and it wouldn't matter. So with Black Garden in particular, the levels on these tokens are level 2, so they can't be used as synchro with, like, at all. Unless you have, like, maybe, well, let's see, Synchro 6. Yeah, we're not able to really make Synchro 6 unless we have a Baron. If we have like a Baron in the extra deck, it's like kind of makeable, I guess. So if we do like It'd Be Scuffed, something like a Chundra, I guess, then we can use 3 tokens to make like a Baron or Sengenpai Transcendent Dragon. So I guess it would be safer to give our opponent here like 5 tokens. So essentially we just Ojama our opponent and they can't play, right? Just a random weakness right here. And there are a few random cards that can kind of just kick the crap out of Tenpai. Well, just randomly, I guess. So if we go One Day of Beast, like, it usually sounds awful, and it kind of is usually awful to give your opponent just a free draw, but if you can not take damage until the end of the opponent's next turn, then it really doesn't matter. So assuming we give Tenpai specifically, well, this isn't like that good of an option, right? But if we give Tenpai specifically a extra draw, the best thing they can draw into is like a Forbidden Droplet or Infinite Impermanence or some form of hand trap. Any piece of engine they draw is going to be useless, and the best thing they'll probably be able to do is like Seals Pass. And yeah, there really isn't much going on here. And then whatever generics we have here. So kinda depends, I guess, exactly how you want to do this, but I did also see this idea floating around. So if we go ahead and play, I believe it was True Sun God. True Sun God has this effect right here somewhere. Monsters except the Winged Dragon of Ra cannot attack the turn they are special summoned. This can kind of be annoying. So yeah, you can synchro all you want, but you won't be able to attack with any of these monsters, and this is a continuous effect, so that'll be a little bit annoying, my guess. So kind of just some niche battle tricks. A few more, I guess, we can throw in. So we have, well, some people are kind of being psychopathic, in my opinion, and playing stuff like maybe Waboku or Threatening Roar, but I don't think these are like really good options, I guess. I guess Threatening Roar, though, in particular, is going to be a little bit better because you cannot declare attacks, and that means you wouldn't be able to trigger a Chundra. But yeah, if we activate specifically, I guess, T-Roar, there is still the threat, of course, of being hit by Red Reboot. So Red Reboot, we're going to, well, this text will be important in a second, I guess. So when your opponent activates a trap card, negate the activation, and if you do, set that card face down. Then they can set one other trap directly from their deck. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent cannot activate trap cards. You can activate this card from your hand by paying half your life points. So Called By is not even being played in this build in particular, I guess, but hand traps in general can kind of stop Tenpai in their tracks, depending on exactly what they open, I guess, so that's cool. But what we can actually do is we can just turtle our opponent. Well, let's see if we can find it. I mean, this isn't like the best option, but if it comes up, it comes up. So let's see if I can find it. Right there. Electromagnetic Turtle. During your opponent's battle phase, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and the battle phase. So this can potentially come up, but this isn't the best card for this, actually. So if we have Electromagnetic Turtle specifically, this won't be activatable if our opponent summons a Sengenpai Transcendent Dragion, which is like technically possible before the battle phase. So this is like alright as an option, but if we just want to make it so our opponent cannot game us and cannot remove our cards, and to have very little counterplay with this. So let's assume, for example, we're playing Pearly. You can, I guess, make Lyrilisk Independent Nightingale, but instead of that, if we're feeling a little bit spicy, using our quick play cards, we can discard cards. So let's say we activate Delicious Memory, and then we just simply discard Rise to Full Height. So if we have a Rise to Full Height, this effect says, well, specifically the one we care about is going to be the Graveyard effect. You would bash this card from your graveyard, then target one monster you control. Your opponent's monsters cannot attack for the rest of this turn, except to attack that monster. So if we are able to use Rise to the Full Height here, we can make it so our opponent is only able to attack one monster. So in this case, if we're playing Pearly, we can just make it like one of our low-level Pearly monsters, like an actual Pearly, in defense, and after that gets attacked into, our opponent will no longer be able to declare any attacks. So our opponent most likely will only be able to declare 1 to 2 attacks if they are playing Tenpai, and then they'll have to pass back, and then they'll make, like, I guess maybe Seals Pass. The only other option for our opponent here is probably to Black Rose our board, or attempt to do so. But I mean, it's possible for us to negate this, and we're just chilling either way. So these are just some spicy text. And going back to the more serious stuff, so Tenpai's actual going second ability is not actually that insanely great. So if we specifically have, if we go with this, this is pretty difficult to deal with. If we have just, for example, a 6k arrival, and then we also have the Ignister in the graveyard that is able to be used as a quick effect, kind of Omni Negate. So if we have Donmari here, this is able to stop our opponent from easily gaming us at all. So the only way to remove like a towers monster, our opponent has just realistically one option. It has to be destroyed by battle, and there is no other way to remove a towers monster, or just a really big guy. So another guy that I think personally is a little bit better than this, a little bit more accessible, is if we were to, well, go into Leo Utopia here. So let's see if I can find it. We're struggling a bit here. Should be down here. So Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray, if we make this with Utopia double, this becomes like 5k attack. And then if we do the effect to equip, so we'll probably be equipping logically the Pegasus, which is also not an activated effect. This would put us at 6k. But if we were playing, I guess, a Tornado Bringer, this will put us at 6.3k attack points, and the highest attack points we can get to in Tenpai is 6,000 if we have Sengenpai or Trident Dragon doubling their attack by destroying the field spell, Sangen Summoning, and this can double right here. And real quick, let's check. You can only use this effect of Sangen Summoning once per turn. I guess if our opponent is really cracked with it, if they manage to somehow destroy 2 copies of Sangen Summoning, somehow, I don't really think this is possible, but technically you could double a Dragon Synchro's attack twice, and then that would put you at 12,000, which is just probably not going to happen. But I mean, even then, with Leo Utopia Ray specifically, we could negate with either itself or potentially a copy of the Pegasus Twin Saber. So those are just some jank things you could do, I guess. A little bit more jank, but yeah, whatever. And then if we actually look at the deck build one more time, right? A lot of your board breakers are not actually that good, honestly. So if we look in terms of board breakers, we have Harpy's Feather Duster, we have Lightning Storm, and we have Forbidden Droplet, and this is all we have. So if we put everything in defense position, the Lightning Storm does nothing. But I mean, technically you could be playing Raigeki as well, it depends. Your best board breaker here is going to be Forbidden Droplet. You can never play Dark Ruler no more. This is impossible. And also, somewhat noticeable is Forbidden Droplet is only able to activate once per turn. So the thing about Forbidden Droplet in particular is there is a way to counter Forbidden Droplet that is pretty consistent, and it's pretty strong no matter what. So we'll go with this play. So if we go, say we're playing Blackwing. Blackwing has a really good going first ability. So if we open specifically Black Feather Whirlwind, most hands can play through a myriad of hand traps. If you only open 1 or 2, it's pretty possible to play through, and you can end on something pretty decent. But essentially what we're going to be looking to end on is we're going to end on like our normal board, and we're going to have our Blackwinged Assault Dragons, and we're going to have our cards in general, right? So we're going to have those, and what we're going to make sure to slap onto our end board will be Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So what we can do against specifically all these Tenpai builds is we know that they don't run many traps. The only traps they usually run are going to be just 3 of Infinite Impermanence and maybe 2 Red Reboot. So it's not very likely for our opponent to open this exact combo. They would need specifically Forbidden Droplet and an Infinite Impermanence that they wouldn't have used on the first turn, or a Red Reboot. So you would need to Forbidden Droplet to send several cards, and then you need to send specifically Infinite Impermanence to actually be able to negate the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, because if we send monsters or spells off of our Forbidden Droplet, we can still respond with traps, and this is a targeted Omni negate, which is able to negate Forbidden Droplet. So the chain will resolve probably something like chain 1 Second Kaiman or chain 1 Lightning Storm, and then chain 2 Forbidden Droplet, and then we can chain 3 on top of the Droplet Twin Shadow, chain 4 Hot Red Dragon Arcfiend Abyss, negating the Droplet, and then that will probably be the last removal our opponent can realistically do. With specifically Blackwing, we also will have Sharnga in the graveyard, which is a quick effect pop. So this can pop either the field spell, or it could pop the normal summon. And if we pop the normal summon, the only possible extension you have is Sangin Kaiman to, I guess, add or special summon Chundra, and then also add and then special summon Genriku, which then just special summons the Chundra. Or you have Sangin summoning to add Genroku to then special summon itself to probably special summon, I guess here it would be Vajra. So something like that. Which is not that problematic, because then with Blackwing in particular, the amount of times you actually have to activate monster effects before being able to, well, in my opinion, realistically do anything, it is way too many. So if we control 1 or 2 Blackwing Assault Dragons, we can burn our opponents to death way before they can out any of our big monsters, and we can also slap Chaos Angel onto our end board. Speaking of which, Chaos Angel is pretty good. The only way Chaos Angel can be dealt with, specifically if we're looking at this list, is if you Lightning Storm it, which I can play around, and then there's Forbidden Droplet. So if I summon all of my guys into defense position, I guess there's also Infinite Impermanence, but you'll probably use this the first turn to try to stop my plays anyways. You probably wouldn't save this for a Chaos Angel. So Forbidden Droplet to negate Chaos Angel is all you're really able to do against the Chaos Angel. You can't really easily remove a Chaos Angel here anyways, and there are likely other inboard pieces that I'm going to put on my inboard anyway, so yeah, the going second ability here is just kind of moderate. Arguably, specifically if we're playing Blackwing, something like a Numeron would be a lot more efficient, but specifically if somehow by some miracle our good old friend and pal here, Blackwing, actually becomes a meta deck, we do have this flaring weakness called the O. We have no protection or way to deal with Super Poly. I mean, it's just what it is, you know? So we have a lot of guys, and they're all dark, so you can, just without your opponent being able to respond, just make Triffy Overtum using 3 guys. So that's like essentially wiping the whole board, and it's not respondable. But you know, what if we don't want to play Blackwing? You know, what if we want different options to face off against Tenpai with? What else can we do? So we have Blackwing. We have the ability to stop our opponent from summoning at all by spamming them with tokens, which is a pretty valid strat. You know, just essentially Ojamaing our opponent. Our opponent, like, the only legal play they have, I believe, is to with their entire deck here, is to normal summon Driver. Otherwise, I mean, at worst, let's say we really don't feel like video gaming here. You know, our opponent is running a lot of hand traps. We can play for a deck out. Yeah, that's right. We can Blackguard in our opponent, and then just have like a card in defense. Because Forbidden Droplet only decreases attack, it becomes literally impossible to out anything with these plant tokens. So not very useful. They have 800 attack, so if we have like literally an Ash Blossom Joe Spring in defense, this is not outable, and our opponent is not able to do anything meaningful for the next, I guess for deck out it would take like 50 turns or something dumb, but cool. Or not cool, depending on your perspective. But we still have more options. So if we look at what our opponent's actually playing here, in terms of backer removal here, we have Harpy's Feather Duster and then just Lightning Storm. So that is only destruction spell trap removal. And this is not that great, specifically into pure control decks. So if we were to be playing, well, let's just say, for example, we could do Final Countdown, we could do quite a lot of different things. So, but we'll go with, I don't know, let's say Paleo. So if we play Paleo and then we just literally flip up Lord of the Heavenly Prison every single turn, these guys are pretty hard to remove. And we also have, of course, the Rise to Full Height to make it really hard to game us, and we'll probably just outgrind Tenpai, but I mean the games will take forever, so not necessarily worth, but still really worth considering the fact that even if our opponent is playing like Forbidden Droplet, Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, all of these cards don't really do anything against just like all of these cards don't really super impact like Torrential Tributes, Dharma, Karma Cannons, all of those type of cards are just perfectly fine, and a lot of this deck, like I'd say like 95% of the deck or more, is going to be dead against back row. So all of your removal is also going to be specifically destruction. So if we have Lord of the Heavenly Prison, all of our spell trap cards, specifically if they're face down, I guess, will be not destructible by card effect, so they'll be pretty strong as well. And normally the counterplay to this would be something like an Evenly Matched, which you would never be playing in Tenpai, because you would be giving up your Val phase and then having to go like Seal's Pass or something, which is essentially worthless and does nothing. But if we want to look at sub-meta relevant decks and look at those specifically, if we have like Snake Eye, the end board for this will usually end on IP, and then you'll be able to go SP to banish the field spell, so Sengen Summoning. So we can banish this, and then we can, assuming if our opponent activates something, we can negate the Chundra, or not negate the Chundra, we can banish the Chundra with the SP, potentially, depends. So we have a lot of ideas here, I guess. But with Yubel, I guess what we can do specifically is we can use the Unchained back row to pop the field spell, and then the normal summon we can somewhat ignore a little bit, I guess. Can we ignore it? Let me think. No. Well, if we can, I think it might be preferable to remove this, or is it not? Well, actually, this happens in damage step, so we can't phantom this, but we can Apollosa it. So yeah, we just remove the field spell, and I think we're pretty solid, and we're able to just spam Apollosa. If our opponent doesn't open a board breaker, we're just vibing, I guess. And you also have hand traps, and it's a 1-card combo, so the matchup isn't really free by any means here against Yubel. It probably depends on who opens better, I guess. If we look at some other decks, it's just, yeah, it's probably fine, I guess. But the biggest thing that Tenpai has going for it is if they specifically open Forbidden Droplet. Aside from Forbidden Droplet or being unable to play because you get hand trapped too much, so we can just do a quick test hand. Here we have like an Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, Maxi. We don't have a lot going here, do we? And then we draw like Ghost Ogre for turn, yeah. So if we are able to negate Maxi and just play it through Ash Blossom Veiler, which seems like a lot, but it's not really, considering how strong the decks we currently have are. They can play through like Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom. Like, I think that depends on the exact list, but it's fine, doable. But no Forbidden Droplet there. So the main thing is if we have like 2 points of interaction, we remove, specifically in that hand, we just have to deal with the Sengen Summoning, and then we can deal with the Genroku. So Genroku can be dealt with by like a single Ash Blossom Joe Spring, so it's just pop 1 card and then we're done. Or something like that. We could do a Monster Negate and then like Ash Blossom Joe Spring, and that might be enough as well. But yeah. So the thing we would want to negate, I guess, here is probably just the Biden effect to Monster Reborn, I think. And then I think it's game. But yeah, the main thing we have to worry about, in my opinion, is the Forbidden Droplet, and this can be played around by any deck pretty easily if we simply just throw in like a Diabell Star plus a Sinful Spoils of Betrayal Silvera. We can do this, and it doesn't hurt like that many decks, honestly, to just have the Diabell Star. So if Diabell Star sets the Sinful Spoils of Betrayal Silvera, this will cost us 1 card, either on our hand or field, so it depends on the exact deck how we can utilize this best. So let's just go with the example of Punk, I guess, for the purposes of this example. So if we go through the full Punk like combo, we'll just do standard Punk combo. We have the ability to draw quite a few times, so we will probably grab a copy of the field spell. So Extreme Session will probably have this, but this won't be live next turn. So if we draw into a Diabell Star at some point, or a Wanted, we can Wanted for Diabell Star or Diabell Star effect to send the field spell here to grab the Silvera. We don't really need to start with the Diabell Star, but it is possible if you would need to do so. But the thing about the Silvera is that Silvera can negate Forbidden Droplet pretty easily, and the only thing we would have to worry about in this case is if our opponent opened back row removal, and then also the Forbidden Droplet, which is not that likely, but if it happens, I guess it happens. But even if they do, we still have other options, because in this case we don't have to worry about Raigeki, so we can probably still bounce all of our opponent's cards pretty easily, I guess, right? So the Punk bounce with Amazing Dragon can be done at any time, so we can just do that. And we also have, of course, Nashiwari Surprise to pop a card. So here in this case, we can pop the field spell and then bounce back like any summoned Tenpais in, well, whenever that becomes relevant. But of course, these guys are a little bit annoying in the fact that if we do the Synchro Summon effect, it's kind of annoying, but there is a weakness with this type of effect. So if we go to specifically Vanquish Soul, Vanquish Soul notably is similar in the sense that they also get screwed the same way that Tenpai Dragon gets screwed. So if we have Vanquish Soul Rosin here, Rosin and Vanquish Soul, they are really dependent on their normal summon, and if something were to happen to that normal summon, you end on literally nothing because you are not able to make the Rock of the Vanquisher or continue extending, and in fact, forget extending, you probably don't have a play next turn either. So it can be pretty brutal if you are able to remove the Rosin. But the idea here, of course, is that we can use our big Vanquish Soul guys, so like Caesar Valius and Heavy Borger, to tag out with Rosin to dodge some removal effects. But that does not apply to specifically non-targeting removal. So if we specifically have something like a Mirror Jade, which you could slap onto your end board via making like Vertes and Branded Fusion and then bringing out a Mirror Jade, depends on the deck if you're able to do so, right? But we're going to just assume you can, right? If we see normal summon Chundra or normal summon Genruku, we can immediately chain the Mirror Jade here, and Mirror Jade does not target, so if we Genroku effect to summon Chundra, this Chundra will immediately be banished when it is summoned. If we have, for example, on our field, a Chundra plus a Pydra, if we use the non-targeting effect of Mirror Jade before battle happens, we can remove the Chundra, and then our opponent is left with only a Pydra, which essentially does nothing. If they try to quick synchro into anything, it doesn't matter really too much what they quick synchro into, because if they synchro into this, it'll get banished. If they synchro into this, it'll get banished, and they won't even be able to activate their effect because Mirror Jade is a non-targeting banish. If they do not respond, we can just take out their Chundra and they should have no extension with only a Pydra, and they do not have lethal like by any means. So we have that idea just in general. So with Branded in particular, you also have this disgusting option, I guess. So if we have, like, for example, a Rinbrum plus a Fallen of Albaz, we can then go Albaz and then go ahead and make a Alba Lenitus. and we can just fuse away the whole board. Same kind of idea as the Mirror Jade here, in the sense that, well, in fact, we can play them together, actually. So if we go like Verte, make Mirror Jade, and then we can do Mirror Jade sends Rinbrum, and the Fallen of Albaz will be in the graveyard already from the Branded Fusion. And then we can bring back Branded Fusion, or not Branded Fusion, bring back Fallen of Albaz to do a Fusion Summon, which is non-targeting. So if we were really focused on specifically playing against Tenpai, this deck would be for Tenpai running the Alba Lenitus with the Fallen of Albaz. Then we can Fallen of Albaz non-targeting, fuse off all of the dragons on our opponent's board, leaving them with no bodies. So this is probably the most viable tech, I think, that you'd be able to use to play against specifically Tenpai, but I don't think you would need to hard focus Tenpai like this hard to make these adjustments to your deck. I don't think is fully necessary, because we do have like a lot of removal that we just have to kind of make life really difficult for our opponent. So the best thing, I think, honestly, is just non-targeting board wipes are also pretty good, I guess. So if we were to be able to do like, I don't know, we'll just use this for example, or we could use like, well, there are other things, I guess. If we have the first Dark Lord, just summon this, or some effect like this, just board wipe at the start of battle after like Sangin Kaiman is resolved. This will just wipe out the entirety of their board. And the only continuation they might have is like, well, if they haven't Sangin Kaiman, they can special summon Fadra or Chundra, to then special summon Chundra, special summon the Fadra, or potentially, I guess, Fadra summon back the Chundra. That's about it. But yeah, Chaos Angel is not like that freaked out here at all. Specifically, a Chaos Angel made with a Dark and a Light. If we were to just pass on this, just Forbidden Droplet is the only response our opponent would have, right? Or the only option our opponent would have. Or like an Infinite Impermanence. Potentially, I guess, right? So, a lot of things you can do against this deck, just straight up. But one of the decks I think just plays really well against all of the things being run here. Just Blackwing in general is pretty good against Tenpai. There are probably like some other matchups that are not that favored, but here is a good one, I suppose. If we go ahead and play Dino, we can misc effect. So Dino has the ability to kind of play through a lot of this. So notably, with Forbidden Droplet, this can be played around a little bit. Depends, I guess, exactly how, but we'll have to check, I guess. With Dino, I believe, being able to make all of our guys not targetable, that helps a little bit. And being able to use Ultimate Conductor Tyranno to flip our opponent's board face down. So if we notice in this build in particular, they run a whole lot of hand traps here. So if we were to specifically misc, all of these are dead, and these aren't going to do that much on our opponent's turn here. When we pass back after making our full end board, we have a load of Omnis, a bunch of big guys, and the only thing that really beats the board is Forbidden Droplet, but there is a way to really make Forbidden Droplet feel insanely trash. So if we're playing Dinosaur in particular, it is also possible to end with a Herald of Arclight on our end board. And this is just a little adjustment, which isn't like that bad, but if we are able to slap a Herald of Arclight onto the end board, this actually does something really massive, right? So any monster sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. And that's all we need, right? It's not any card, but this allows our opponent to send spells, traps, or whatever from their hand to the graveyard for Forbidden Droplet. Of course, we can still send from field to graveyard as well, but with Herald of the Arclight, specifically, if we want to send a monster, it would have to be, in this case, special or normal summon first. And that would mean our opponent potentially having to activate like a Sengen Kaiman, or having to normal summon a Chundra or Genroku, and then sending that to the graveyard before being able to droplet us. And that is actually a huge deal, and not only will they have to do that, they will have to send specifically the card they normal or special summoned. And this doesn't seem like a huge deal yet until you think about Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet, if we do not send specifically a monster from our field, in this case, then our opponent can respond with a monster effect, like, let's say, for example, a Baron de Fleur to negate the Forbidden Droplet, and it just does nothing. So, if we are playing, like, Tenpai, like, depends on the exact hand, right? But if, for example, we normal summon Chundra, and then something bad happens to this Chundra, it could be like an Imperm, a Book of Moon. It could be removed somehow. It could be negated. A lot of different things. It could be popped. Whatever. Then there is no OTK that can be done, right? Or if it's like a Pydra, for example, same thing can kind of apply here. And the Herald of the Arclight itself is also still an Omni Negate. And this specifically negates activation, working in the damage step. So it carries pretty hard, I guess, if you're somehow needing to deal with Tenpai. And I mean, with misc effect as well, well, misc isn't really activatable under Herald of the Arclight, but with misc effect as well, it can go pretty hard against, I guess, Tenpai, right? So we don't really have to worry about like a Forbidden Droplet, or, well, actually we do have to worry about Forbidden Droplet, but we don't have to worry about like Raigekis or any kind of like board wipes with misc. So that is pretty nice, I guess. But aside from that, I don't think there's too much left to be, well, that needs to be mentioned. But yeah, I think that's most of what I want to cover here. And of course, I mean, there are some decks that play better against Tenpai than others. It kind of just generally depends situationally. But also worth mentioning, I guess, is there are Kashtira builds that would be able to play around this, like, no problem. Like, if we were playing against Kashtira with this build, if we are unable to hand trap the Kashtira player very well here, Forbidden Droplet doesn't work under macro effects, period. So this card is just completely dead. Lightning Storm does nothing. It just destroys back row. Same with Duster. That is okay. A-okay. So the only card that would be able to remove or do anything against the Rise Heart is just the Infinite Impermanence. And then depends exactly what we have on field, but you'll probably have like something like a Fenrir plus a Rise Heart. You usually have access to both on the same turn, so you'll have to deal with 2 banishes. So yeah, that's not really possible to play around, especially under macro. So that'll probably be game as well. So macro type effects are not like fully effective, because it is possible under certain circumstances, like if you have 2 cards, I believe it's something like that, 2 cards or Chundra against like an empty board, you can kill under like a shifter if your opponent can't make any plays. So maybe your opponent needed to send a guy to special summon their guy. Like for example, in Punk, I guess, you actually need to send for cost to activate Foxy Tune. And you wouldn't be able to like use your best extender, starter, whatever. So yeah, definitely not a deck I would be super worried about. This deck, honestly, kind of feels overhyped to me. So until recently, I haven't actually checked what Tenpai actually does, but I've been hearing like whispers of Tenpai being insane or overpowered or toxic, and I'm looking at this and I'm still thinking like, bro, the only thing that like they do that's kind of like a little bit toxic is we have like Sangan summoning here, and then we have Sengenpai Transcendent Dragion here. So it's just your opponent cannot activate cards here, and and then your opponent cannot affect your guys here. But we can remove the Sanguine Summoning, so that's a thing, I guess. We can remove it, and then I guess that's it, right? There's nothing that difficult to deal with here. But if we're playing against Numeron, like honestly, just if we're looking at just not just viability, but just toxicity in general, Numeron is way more disgusting. So, do you guys remember what Numeron plays like? So we activate the Numeron network, or we try to get access to the Numeron network, and Numeron network cannot be ashed. You could ogre it, and that's about it. No other cards will really do anything against this. Very difficult to deal with, honestly. And then on top of this, the board breakers they play are not the same as the ones Tenpai plays. So specifically, board breakers we can play here technically include like Sphere Mode. You can Sphere Mode in Numeron. So that's non-respondable. Remove 3 guys from your board. Just, you know, pretty much like the equivalent of, I guess in this case, super polying Blackwing. And then we have, of course, Lava Golem, which you can use multiple of in the same turn. Kaijus, non-respondable removal. Removing like your key, like a key piece of your board. So like, let's say if you were playing perhaps Yubel, we can just Kaiju your Phantom and then like game you with network. Pretty sure that's just a thing you can do, right? Actually, no, we still have to remove not just the Phantom of Yubel, I guess. So I guess we can't Kaiju. We'll have to Lava Golem instead, I think. Probably, I guess in this case, like the Phantom of Yubel and the Unchained Soul of Rage. And then we can just run into the guys like a bunch of times, and they'll probably be game. I haven't actually calculated it, but it's close at least, and they also run more board breakers as well, so those will probably work out pretty well in their favor, I guess. But yeah, the form of removals, well, that we can play in Tenpai here, not as bad as Numeron or like Makanko, being also able to play Sphere Mode and Lava Golem. So you actually need your normal summon in Tenpai, which makes it like a little bit weaker, honestly, in their board breaking ability. So it's actually not that bad. It's really just the field spell. But hey guys, you wanna know a really fun way? Well, I wouldn't call this fun. A really fun way to beat Tenpai? Well, here's a simple way, and this will probably be the last thing we talk about here, I guess. So, Secret Village. Okay, so if we activate Secret Village, let's see what we have here. Forbidden Droplet, the best card in their deck, not activatable. Intriguing. Sanguine Kaiman, not activatable. Sanguine Summoning, not activatable. So what is activatable? Only the Tenpai cards. And okay, let's say we normal summon, it literally doesn't matter which Tenpai. Any Tenpai, aside from maybe a Genroku, I guess. But I don't think Genroku honestly does anything by itself. Because we, you know, it's just a 0 attack guy, and you'll have to tag out into a different Tenpai eventually. Unless we have specifically, I guess, Genroku plus Chundra, that'll be like a little bit annoying. But you can only quick synchro during the battle phase, and you can only special summon Chundra during the main phase. So if we have like one form of removal, like we'll go with a Raigeki break here. So normal summon Chundra, Raigeki break. You can't Sanguine Kaiman to summon another guy. You can't even activate Sanguine Kaiman. Okay, does nothing. If we normal summon Genroku and then special summon the Chundra, we can just remove, I guess in this case it'd probably be best to remove the Chundra. So I guess this would require like one more piece of removal, I suppose. So if we could ideally, I guess, non-targeting remove Genroku, that'd be the best. But if we remove the Chundra here, I don't think we really have many good options. I guess you still do have options, specifically with this hand and no others. But this isn't even a 3 of, so not that likely, not something to super worry about. But okay, I guess in this case we'll have to use 2 forms of removal. Where have I seen a card that could perhaps remove 2 times? Well, a single SP can get most of the way there. I guess that's all we need, huh? Yeah, I guess that works. Sure. And then if you were to try to activate Pydra or Fadra, that would get banished, and then we end on maybe like 1 Chundra, and then we could try climbing into like second Bite and Dragon. In this case, we only have enough bodies to exactly go Dragon, so yeah, a little bit more complicated in this case, but general idea is still, you know, Secret Village, or some form of like Spell Canceller or something like that, and then yeah, the engine becomes complete garbage, essentially. The strongest board breaker being Forbidden Droplet not being activatable, back row removal no longer working. You don't really have a lot going for you after this point. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.